When does sound become music? The human heart creates a beat. Our movement can become rhythm, and our breath a wind instrument. The human body and the landscape around us have an inherent ability to create music. Arkansas's diverse landscape has 6 unique geographical regions. These regions have a musical heritage dating back to early European exploration and even prehistoric times. The Ozark Plateau region is home to the Breckenridge flute. The Arkansas River Valley is where a 16th century European trading bill was excavated near Petit Jean Mountain. The Ouachita Mountains and the Gulf Coastal Plain were home to the Caddo Nation. The Caddo described the use of a drum in their creation story. The noble lake whistle was found in the Mississippi alluvial plain. Arkansas's oldest known instrument was excavated from the southern tip of Crowley's Ridge. The Helena Crossing Hopewell panpipe dates back more than 2,000 years. Around 200 BC through 400 AD, during the Middle Woodland period, the eastern half of North America underwent a cultural shift, now known as the Hopewell Interaction Sphere. With its epicenter in the Ohio River Valley, it extended out and included a vast network of different tribes and chiefdoms that exchanged ideas, traded goods, and developed new agricultural techniques. Remains from this culture were found in tombs at the southern tip of Crowley's Ridge near Helena, Arkansas in 1960. James Ford, the anthropologist who excavated the tomb, wrote that the single burial in Tomb A, Mound C, was a young adolescent. Beads were at neck, upper parts of arms, wrists, and ankles. A bead and wolf-tooth belt was about the waist, and a copper-jacketed panpipe lay on the chest.
Now what we have here is the 2,000-year-old panpipe that James A. Ford found. So what we're going to do now is take a closer look at this. It's pretty much one of a kind, and it is 2,000 years old. It's fairly fragile. And there's your panpipe.
You notice the color is different? Near the mouthpiece is made of silver. And the jacket was wrapped around these 3 tubes that were made of river cane. And then it was fastened in the back with cordage right here and right there. And the copper has allowed the cane inside to be somewhat preserved. It's in very good shape.
This is really one of the iconic Hopewell artifacts.
Oh, it is.
Hopewell is one of those words that archaeologists love. It's named after a farm in Ohio where it was first recognized, the Hopewell culture. What's extraordinary about it, 2,000 years ago, it's the first time in this country where state after state after state got involved in something. And it's sometimes called the Hopewell Interaction Sphere. Some people call it the Hopewell Explosion. There's something clearly going on, the event, the phenomena, the interaction, but it's always translated in a local way. The artifacts are so spectacular. There are pipes and jewelry and carvings and rare materials and musical instruments.
Jim Reese is a musical anthropologist who has been researching ancient musical instruments from Arkansas for the past decade.
There have been about between 60 and 70 of these panpipes found in the eastern United States. The one at Helena is the earliest sound-making or musical instrument that has been found in the state.
Ethnomusicologist Dr. Mark Howell has studied American Indian sound makers for several decades and believes that the function of the panpipe transcends present-day ideas of Western music.
One thing I need to point out about a lot of these instruments, and I prefer to use the term sound maker, is that they don't play music in the way that we think of in the West. There's only 3 pitches you can get out of this instrument. There's not a song that I know of in Euro-American repertoire that only uses 3 pitches, even children's songs. So I think that these are serving a different function. One thing about Hopewell is that color is very important, and copper, being red, is considered part of the underworld. So they divided their universe into 3 realms: the underworld, the middle world, and the above world. And if you listen to this sound, it's very airy. It has a distinct quality of atmospheric noise to it. So I think that's purposeful. I think there's a reason that this sounds the way it does.
Because these Hopewell panpipes have only been found in mortuary contexts, it is difficult to know what their living purpose was and what they would have sounded like. Less is known about the late woodland period.
We don't have any evidence of any other sound makers for another couple of hundred years. In the rock shelters of Arkansas, you start to see gourd, rattles, rasp, and cane flutes and whistles from Eden's Bluff, from the Breckenridge rock shelter.
Around 1020 A.D., under a dry bluff shelter in northwest Arkansas's Ozark Plateau region, a 2-chambered flute made from river cane was laid to rest. This period of time is now known as the Mississippian period and is defined by an increase in agriculture and artistic expression.
This is the flute from the Breckenridge shelter. Here you see the finger holes, and then you see the direction hole here. Here's the channel or groove across the node up here that connects the blow chamber. So this flute produced a calibrated 2 sigma date of 1020 to 1160 AD. This is the Breckenridge Bluff Shelter you see behind me. It's one of the larger bluff shelters in the Ozarks. The Ozarks are really an eroded plateau rather than a true mountain range. You can see that water is dripping off from up above in this area right over here. But in the very back here, it's powder dry. And this is where you get the best preservation. Cane objects that came from bluff shelters like these have decorations on them that seem very similar to decorations on Osage war whistles made of cane. The Osage, for example, had war whistles that looked very similar to this, that they wore around their necks. And when they attacked an enemy, they usually kept a whistle in their mouth and blew on it as hard as they could. So it's possible that the people who lived here were the ancestors of the Osage, or it's possible they may have been the ancestors of the Caddoan-speaking peoples.
According to the Caddo creation story, the first man and woman stepped out of a hole in the earth. The woman was carrying pumpkin and corn seed. The man was carrying fire, a pipe, and a drum. The Caddo people inhabited southern Arkansas, northern Louisiana, and eastern Oklahoma and Texas since at least the 11th century. To date, they have preserved over 200 songs and are still performing these traditional songs and dances at ceremonies in Arkansas.
The Caddo people came in contact to Europeans in 1542 when Hernando de Soto's group came through here. That was our first contact. From maps they found and so forth, that Arkadelphia was the place. So this is historic in that way to me and to us. This is the Caddo turkey dance, Nook Ocean. It's a turkey dance.
There are early historic accounts of drums among the Caddo. Just over the border in Oklahoma, there's iconographic evidence of drums, edge-tone instruments, rattles, and clappers in the shell engravings from the Spiro mounds.
Idiophones are instruments that produce sound through the vibration of the instrument itself. This is a rasp. This is a replica of one that came from a bluff shelter just over the line in Missouri. This was probably used as a rhythm instrument.
This is a rattling bow. These are not uncommon in Arkansas. You find them in the Mississippian period. The height of effigy bow manufacture was 1200 to 1400 AD. A large number of these effigy rattling bows can be found in the St. Francis River area, Crowley's Ridge area, sites like Park Inn or Barton Ranch or Bradley. I did a study of about 5 of them that I found at an archaeological site called Lake George, and ended up x-raying the heads and found out that they were hollowed out by fingers, and that it's no mistake in manufacturing that this thing rattles. According to informers I had consulted about these effigy rattles, the rattling sound is the heartbeat of the clan animal that's depicted. That by rattling these bows, you're animating the heart of the clan animal. You're basically bringing this animal to life. And that it was probably used in the green corn ceremony when they light the new fire. I think that these were meant to offer sound. As you dabble in this, you run into people who are also interested in it, and you also find out there's more to it than you thought. And I will hyperbolically state that 95% of the most interesting and probably largest quantity of sound-making artifacts in the Southeast were found in Arkansas. And that includes gourd rattles, cane flutes, cane whistles, rasp of cane and clay, perhaps a ceramic whistle, the only one of its kind in the Southeast.
Probably the most recent of these ancient instruments that we know about, found in Arkansas, was a small globular ceramic vessel that was a whistle. It dates to the period that we call the proto-historic period, between 1600 and 1650. The design of the vessel itself and the decoration are definitely Caddoan, but the technology for making it into a whistle is very Mesoamerican.
This is actually a Mesoamerican whistle. This is another thing that makes Arkansas unique in music archaeology. There is absolutely no other ceramic instrument anywhere in the east of what is now the United States. Arkansas is the only one known. There are only 4 known from the Southwest.
Starting with DeSoto's Entrada in 1541 until the establishment of Arkansas Post in the late 1600s. Great deal of disruption among the native peoples of Arkansas during that time, a lot of moving around. Some European trade goods were coming into the area, traded from tribe to tribe.
Let me talk a little bit about the impact of European explorers on sound preference. The bells that were traded to Native Americans in the Mississippi River Valley between the 1500s and the 1800s, and what they can tell us about audio preference that will in the end help us to reimagine that Native American soundscape. The bells got smaller as they went through the 18th century, and as they are becoming more accustomed to the trading procedures, they are choosing higher pitched bells. I think for Native Americans of the Southeast, at least at the time of conquest and colonization, prioritize a sound that's higher than what we are accustomed to. Music is universal. There are no people in the world that don't have music, or what we would call music. Certain societies may not label these as music in the way that we regard it, you know, as entertainment or as something we do for spiritual practice or something we do to dance to move to. But they make sounds that are used, you know, in a particular way that by any stretch of hearing would have to be classified as a type of music making.